In 2009, Joanie and I covered a story following 6 women who went to Tanzania to do a volunteer project at a school for AIDS orphans. We knew it was going to be an amazing story, but what we didn't know was how transformative it was going to be for not only the women we were covering, but for ourselves.
Ryan?
We came back from that one trip and we were incredibly inspired, and we started Journeys for Good. And our hope is that we can show people what's possible to do all kinds of different projects and to show how incredibly rewarding this kind of travel can be. We're going to travel with our son Ryan around the world and tell these stories and hopefully inspire other people to take their own journey for good.
Cambodia. Its famous temples reflect the ancient glory of the Khmer Empire. Its people struggle to rebound from decades of bloodshed and poverty. Cambodia is equal parts beauty and heartbreak, an assault to the senses and a treasure for the soul. Journeys for Good travels with generous spirits and ready hands to this kingdom of wonder. Our goals are not lofty, just to connect and to make life a bit better for these indomitable people who never allow their hardship to define them. The need here in Cambodia is great. The people have been hit hard time and time again. In 1969, the U.S. ran a 4-year bombing campaign that killed several 100,000 civilians.
Then in the mid-1970s, under the brutal dictator Pol Pot and his Khmer Rouge regime, it is estimated 2 million people died from execution, disease, and starvation in forced labor camps. The Cambodian people were left devastated and their economy in ruins.
The tragic effects of war are seen often on the streets of Siem Reap. More than 40,000 have lost limbs, leaving Cambodia with the highest amputee population in the world. An estimated 4 to 6 million landmines and live ordnance still litter the countryside, continuing to cause death and dismemberment. Disease is also a problem in this developing nation. About 20 years ago, vaccines without proper refrigeration brought on cases of polio, crippling the recipients and sentencing them to a life of disability. We traveled to Siem Reap alongside a group of fellow volunteers, a diverse group of young professionals and families who had come from across the U.S., Australia, and Japan to participate in a series of volunteer projects.
So this is the first part of the volunteer project. We are here collecting the pieces, the components that we're going to use to assemble 28 wheelchairs, and then we're going to take them back and put them together. Our group included 4 boys, our son Ryan, age 9, and 3 other boys, ages 11 to 16.
The kids, I was amazed at their strength. They were lifting things that normally they would maybe be whining about carrying. They knew they were doing this stuff for a purpose. They were lifting boxes with frames. They were, carrying piles of 12 cushions at a time. They had a job to get done, and they really rose to the occasion.
The plastic chairs that would become the seats for the wheelchairs had been held in storage before our arrival. Our first task was to wash them down so that they'd be ready for assembly.
Okay, so when we open the cage...
Then Dine, our in-country guide, gave the group a crash course on wheelchair assembly.
This is the front wheel.
So the goal is for each one of us to make 2 chairs. So, here we go.
That was the day for me that it really kind of started to feel like, yes, these are my fellow volunteers, but they also kind of feel like family. And so just everybody helping out and pitching in to make sure that we got all 28 built before the sun went down was a challenge, but it worked out really well.
Okay,
It was a little bit tricky at first, but we had some helpers with Dine's friends, the driver and everything. They were really good at it, so once they showed us how, it was a lot quicker.
Yeah, I'm gonna ride this at the end.
How are you?
You had to line up the holes with all the others' holes. You had to screw the wheels on, screw the chair on. It was challenging, but I got by it.
Well, everyone's been working really hard getting these wheelchairs put together. We're starting to get into the evening hour. We have a few more chairs to do, but I think we're going to make it. There's a good camaraderie coming together here. So I think we're going to make our goal.
Building the wheelchairs and putting them together, you knew what you were going to be doing the next day, but it was just all of us, and it was more sort of a fun event for us. And then the next day, all of a sudden, it just all hits you. Like, oh my gosh, this is totally real, and there's a van of 28 people who this moment is changing their lives.
I think when it was time for the children and the young adults and the adults to come and get their wheelchairs, I think none of us were quite prepared for what we were going to see, what we were going to encounter. I don't think we quite understood what some of the disabilities might be, and I think for a lot of members of our group that was quite sobering, and for all of us that transition out of the van and into the wheelchairs, and then seeing our beautiful able-bodied kids giving so generously and wheeling in such a natural way, those who had come to receive their wheelchairs. I think that was one of those truly humbling moments that we are encountering and feeling the whole time that we are here.
I can imagine the people that do need it, it must be not easy for their whole lives.
It made me really happy to see all those people who were disabled come in and then be put in the wheelchairs that we built, and just seeing their faces and how happy they were to actually finally have a way to be mobile and move around, and that just made me really happy.
It was incredible to be able to meet the people and have a chance to give the wheelchairs to them personally. And one extra special nice touch at the end, we were able to actually sign the back of the chairs that we made, which just made it feel that much more personal and that much more special.
That was actually another big part of it. If you put your name on something, you better hope that you've made it quality enough to where it's going to last. So I was a little bit worried about that, because I know that we were tightening things down sometimes quickly, or I hope we didn't miss anything, because my name's on there. I don't want anyone to be like, oh, that Greg Stratton from the US doesn't know how to make wheelchairs. So.
Curses, Greg Stratton.
Yeah. So.
In between our volunteer projects, we got a chance to explore Siem Reap. The gateway to the famous Angkor Wat temple complex, Siem Reap is a bustling tourist town with countless street vendors, restaurants, and opportunities for cultural exploration. The sights and sounds are stimulating, and the smells can range from pleasant to pungent. The old market at the town center is a place where tourists shop right alongside locals for everything under the sun, from produce to crafts and clothing. The burgeoning tourism industry is a boon for the locals, and they wholeheartedly welcome travelers. Nowhere is this embraced more fully than by the tuk-tuk drivers.
Here we go.
A sort of motorized rickshaw, tuk-tuks are ubiquitous on the streets of Siem Reap. They crowd the avenues and provide a cheap and, more importantly, entertaining way to get around. For a few bucks, you can hop in and get where you're going. Sometimes it feels a bit like a ride at Disneyland, with quick turns and abrupt starts. But at the lead is usually a grinning driver ready to engage you in fun. Surprisingly, most drivers speak at least some English. So, it's a great way to get to know a local on the go.
One popular tourist activity is the fish massage.
We're gonna stick our feet in this tank of fish.
So Ryan has convinced me to come and try this Siem Reap specialty, which you put your feet in this tank and the fish nibble off the dead skin.
Go ahead.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
It tickles a lot.
It's like a little tick, 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 little nibbles. The things you do for your child, I'm just saying.
Leaving the fish and the busy streets of Siem Reap behind, we set our sights on our next mission, teaching English at a local orphanage.
And we really felt like we were entering another world outside of Siem Reap. We were bumping along dusty country roads and seeing elevated wooden houses on either side. And the landscape changed fairly dramatically. And after about half an hour, we approached the orphanage.
I'm Ben, nice to meet you. So when we arrived, the children had all lined up on either side of the road, and it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. You know, I felt like I'm here to help them and that they have kind of had to go out of their way to stand there and wait for me. But they were very warm and very welcoming and took right to showing us all around the orphanage, showing us their bedrooms, showing us their classrooms. And they were very proud to show off their school. And I went from this discomfort to feeling very comfortable and feeling very welcomed. And I was very glad I had the chance to be there.
It was very heartwarming to feel how welcoming the children were, especially having never met them before. And you'd see the joy that you bring to them by just paying them a visit for a few hours. While we were there, they quickly wanted to take us on a tour, and we're proud of their facilities. And I think that's what was really interesting, that we look at some of the places that they're living in, they're staying in, and they're studying in. And to our standards, it's subpar, but to them, they're really proud of what they have.
Why do you study English?
Because we have like all the people all around the world, they speak English, so we like to study English especially.
They know that the English is really the key to a good future for them in the hospitality industry or something related, and it's their step up. It is hugely important. It's not just like the luxury of a second language for us.
Bye-bye. Their English is actually really, really good. Really good. So I think they'll be teaching us something.
Everyone had a chance to meet them individually. Now we're going to move into the classroom and work on their English skills. As night fell on the open-air classroom, the volunteers worked with small groups, guiding the kids through a number of prepared English phrases.
Have a nice day.
The purpose of our visit was to give the children a chance to practice with native English speakers and to help them with proper pronunciation. Our students were eager to learn, and their infectious joy quickly spread throughout the classroom.
That's the thing that goes on your lip.
There was a huge amount of joy, and in a way, the more we revved it up, the more fun they had, struggling with the pronunciation and then getting it, and then all applauding each other for that.
I think this is what we should do. I stepped aside for a little bit and just got to take a really good look at the room and what was going on, and everyone was doing their own thing. After they moved from the English lesson, some people were singing songs, some people were playing some games on a piece of paper. And I thought that was a really interesting thing, is that you move past of what's on paper and you start to build a relationship with these kids, especially after only a few hours that you're in the facility with the kids. They really warm up to you fairly quickly.
Orphanage visits like this one are contentious in the growing voluntourism industry. There have been some abuses, with illegitimate orphanages created specifically to attract Western dollars, so it's important to ensure the legitimacy of the facility. Another criticism is that these visits might be emotionally confusing for young children. This may be true of a longer-term, care-based engagement, But since our project focused on a short teaching session, this emotional attachment issue wasn't a concern.
One of the things that I always keep in the back of my mind, regardless of whether it's visiting an orphanage or doing any sort of volunteer work, is looking at the tangible benefit that you get from it, and whether it's actually doing more good or more harm, right? And so even having spent a very short amount of time with them, it does have some very small tangible benefit to it. The kids are just so happy and so eager to see you, and I think that says something for, you know, for the limited amount of time we have, that we can make a difference, even if it's very short.
In the Kavin district outside of Siem Reap province is the remote Kok Chok commune. Heading down a dirt path, we made our way to the home of the K family, where our next project would be. The task for today was to put the finishing touches on a construction project that had been started by previous volunteers.
There are 11 villages in the Kavin district, with an estimated population of about 28,000 people. Here in these rural areas, there's a real lack of basic infrastructure, such as roads, electricity, and clean water. Most people eke out a living through farming of palm sugar, rice, vegetables. The average income is about $150 per family per month. We've come here today to help a very special young woman by the name of Shrey Ong Kay.
Shreyon K is a 22-year-old disabled woman. Shreyon lives with her 6 family members. Their home is built about 8 feet above ground, typical for this area, which gets incredibly muddy during the wet season. Life in Kok Chok is hard, especially for Shreyon, who is confined to a wheelchair. Through our interpreter, Dine, we had a chance to talk with Shreyon and found out she had contracted polio as a baby due to tainted vaccine. We also discovered how difficult it is for her to get around, especially in the jungle.
So in the wet season, everywhere is become muddy. So the way for her to make a travelation anywhere is a bit quite difficult for her, because this village located in a jungle. So there are many of the tree roots and layers everywhere. So she have to move very slowly and very be careful.
There was a very, very steep climb of about 5 or 6 steps up to the house.
For a disabled girl like her, you know, that's every day crawling hand over hand up and down the stairs to get into her house, and it takes time, it's uncomfortable, it's not dignified.
Now what had happened is a room had been built on ground level, and with a ramp, and she was able to have easy access to this room that had been built for her.
Our group of volunteers was there to put the finishing touches on the room, sanding down the walls, painting it a beautiful orange color that Shreyon had chosen herself, and then moving her furnishings into the room. This new room is even more meaningful because we found out that Shreyon is going to be married soon. Apparently, this doesn't happen very often for disabled people in Cambodia, due to the cultural expectation for women to do absolutely everything in the home, which is impossible for Shreyon. The good news is that she met a man, they fell in love, and they're getting married soon, so all the more reason for her to have a room of her own.
For our next project, we drove away from Siem Reap city center and into the outlying village of Kan Trok. Our mission was to help improve the life of Mian Nook, another individual who had fallen victim to poorly refrigerated polio vaccine.
Well, when we first got here, we had a little explanation of what the project was going to be, and then Dine divided everybody up into groups. We have people putting up thatch roof here. This is going to be a community well that will be used by the entire village as a clean water source.
And then the other project is they're completing a bathroom over here on the lower floor. This one gentleman, it's his home, and he had been one of the recipients of a wheelchair from a previous program, and this is another step in helping him in his life.
In the wintertime, this whole place floods, and so this poor guy who's in a wheelchair, in order for him to get out of his house and go to the bathroom, he has to crawl through the mud, out into the jungle, and dig a hole. This is going to just improve his lifestyle so much, going to make life so much easier, stay cleaner, and healthier. It's going to be so much better for him.
The other great thing is they've hired a local engineer to come in and help with the project, so it's also offering employment to some of the local people.
Our job was to cement render the bathroom. That involved mixing up the cement and then actually putting it on, using a trowel. And it looks very easy when the professionals do it, but when we did it, it was really not so easy.
That was really, really hard, a lot harder than I thought it would be. Both manually hard and also because plastering takes a lot of skill that I didn't realize before.
It was really nice to have Ryan, the Australian, with us because he has experience doing construction and has built a couple of hotels in Dubai, so we really learned pretty quickly to follow his direction, especially when it came to mixing the cement.
It's a little bit harder work than back home. You've got to hand mix the sand and cement, and a combination of no lime and none of us used to manual labour. It's makes it challenging, yeah.
I've been filling up water buckets, putting the roof on the watershed, and I've been doing the cement, putting the cement on the wall. When we first arrived here, I felt really bad for him, and to build something that somebody needs makes me feel good.
Feels good that we've worked hard and we're getting somewhere.
The kids absolutely stepped up. The kids absolutely became involved. And I don't think it was a case of, these are the kids, they can't do as much as us. Each and every one of them became absolutely involved in what they were doing. But it was a beautiful strength that they could bring their energy into our whole group's work and discover that they were able to be a part of a team that wasn't classified just a team for kids, but a team of adults, a team of people with different experiences. It wasn't an issue of age anymore. It was an issue of, you use your ability to the best you can, and the kids were in there just like the rest of us, discovering how amazing they were at the work that they were doing.
What was kind of unique and different about it is that there were monks chanting in the background because it was the New Year, it was New Year's Day.
As the chanting continued, my curiosity led me next door to check it out. Dine introduced me to the family and they invited me inside. I learned that each year, families across Cambodia hold ceremonies like this one to pay respect to the Meba, or ancestral spirits. It's a bit similar to the Mexican tradition Day of the Dead, only in this case, Buddhist monks are called upon to offer prayers and blessings.
The spirit and the world of the human is different. So the smoke from the incense and the candle represented to the spiritual of the one who was passed away.
I see. And how long do they burn the incense? Is this all day?
All day long.
All day long?
Yes, until finish the ceremony.
We're going to go back building a house. Well, that was pretty special. A little taste of the culture and religion. It's really a treat to be invited in and to experience a little bit about what is happening here in this small village.
As the volunteers finished up their work, we had a chance to talk with Mien Nook through our interpreter.
So I am the one of the Cambodian people, and I also was born from the poor family. So his opinion and same as my opinion and my feelings too. We are really surprised that we have been seeing all you guys that came from many countries all over the world. You not our nation, not our people, But we are really surprised that we can see all you guys right here and came here, love us and support us. Just start everything from today with a new life, with a new wheelchair. And then especially he got the pump well for the clean water, drinking and cooking, and then the bathroom located under the house. So from day to day, from year to year, his life getting better and better so much.
Yeah, it looks like the whole family's here, and looking across, you just see nothing but smiles as they're working, and it's got to feel pretty good. You know, here's this whole group of people coming, doing this amazing work that's going to really benefit their lives quite a bit.
Being able to take a vacation and feel the way you do when you leave, you know, if you go and you lay on a beach somewhere, you feel relaxed and rejuvenated. We're all a little bit tired and exhausted, but we have a different kind of feeling that you can't get from any other trip. Just leaving knowing that you left something behind and you did some good while you were there is just a great feeling.
It really gives you a different experience from what you'd normally do on a trip.
I also feel like I have a better understanding for Cambodia, the Khmer people, the needs here, and I think a better understanding for how I might be able to serve the needs of some of those back in my hometown as well.
What international volunteering does is it enables us and our kids to bridge cultures, bridge communities, bring communities together. It makes our huge world a smaller place.
It's the giving to another community in need, but it's also what we take back home with us. A real appreciation for and connection with another culture that takes you way beyond being a tourist.
As parents, it was meaningful to share this experience with our son. We were proud that he worked hard and got a greater understanding for the importance of helping others. For more information and to view additional content online, please visit journeysforgood.com.